Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. You guys are gonna think I'm nuts. I think we're gonna start working on pond number 3, or is it pond number 2.1A subsection C? I don't know. Let me show you what I mean. So pond number 1, as you guys have been following the channel for years, is up there in front of the house. That's the back side of the dam up that way. This is pond number 2 that we just finished digging 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what we're gonna call the new pond is this little section over here. And the reason that I'm saying it's not really a third pond, it's pond 2.1, is because they are going to be connected by that overflow pipe. So when the overflow is running from this one to this one, technically they will be touching. But what I think is gonna be really cool about this is this pond is going to be higher than this pond. So it's almost gonna look like a lock in here. If you've ever seen those on rivers, whenever rivers change elevation quickly and they need to get ships through, they put in locks. You've got a higher body of water and a lower body of water. Basically, I'm calling this the same pond with just a little land bridge in between being the dam. The reason that this one is going to exist is, once again, we were stealing clay from down in this area here to build this pond dam up a little bit higher to hold more water in this pond. So when we pump water from this pond up to the original pond, we will be more drought resistant during dry summer months. You know, every inch of water that we can add to this pond up here is probably 20, 30, 40,000 gallons of water. So that's gonna make a significant difference if we go 2 weeks without rain and we're pumping water every single day from this one up there to have an extra 5, 6, 8 inches in this pond down here. So that's what we're gonna be working on today. You can see I still haven't touched the clay we added to this because it's still a little bit wet. Need to wait for this to dry out a little bit more. So today, we got rain coming tomorrow. I'm gonna work on getting this shaped up and dug out how I want it. And hopefully by this evening, this will be at least dry enough that I can get in here and work on it a little bit and get it flattened out because, like I said, it's gonna rain tomorrow. So I wanna get this shaped up the best that I can. So here I've got to switch buckets before we can get started because I had my 1-foot trenching bucket on because a neighbor just down the street needed a couple of stumps dug out for him. And really these are the 2 buckets that I use primarily all of the time now, is my trenching 12-inch bucket and this new tilt bucket from Mongo Attachments. The fact that this thing is able to dig with makes it so incredibly useful. You know, normally if I was going to be digging, I'd be using a 36-inch tooth bucket, but because I'm able to tilt with this, it just makes it so much more versatile of a tool to be able to grade and shape as I'm digging. So I've got a new tool I want to show you guys, and this is going to be useful for anybody that does anything with hydraulically run attachments. So this tilt bucket uses hydraulic hoses to run the cylinders to tilt the bucket back and forth. And what happens is on hot sunny days, the hydraulic fluid within the hoses expands and creates a ton of pressure, and you are not able to compress that hydraulic fluid enough to be able to force those fittings together. You can see right here I'm struggling quite a bit, it just won't go. And so this new tool that I have is an Irwin quick grip XBoom clamp made specifically for compressing these hydraulic fittings together. They give you 600 pounds of clamping force. Normally what you'd have to do is crack the fittings open with 2 wrenches in order to relieve that pressure. But this tool allows you to compress those fittings together even under extreme back pressure and saves you from having to get the wrenches out to break those fittings apart and relieve that pressure. There we go, just like that. Hooked up. There was no way I was going to be able to do that without cracking the fitting. And with this, I just need this instead of having 2 wrenches down there. The other nice thing about not having to crack the fittings all the time in order to hook up your hydraulic hoses is every time you crack a fitting, you are increasing the chance of it starting to leak whenever you go to tighten it back up, unless you re-Teflon tape it or pipe dope it every single time, which that's not something I'm going to do. Usually I'm going to crack the fitting, let the pressure out, and then tighten it back up. And I've had a number of occasions it'll actually start leaking until I go and get some new Teflon tape on there. So the fact that I now no longer have to crack my fittings is a huge win in my book. I actually like that little tool so much, I think I might get a second one and take a page out of neighbor Doug's book and mount one to the excavator and mount one to the tractor, because it'll work for my grapples or augers or anything like that on the tractor, as well as anything on the excavator. And that way I'll always have the tool where I need it, instead of wondering, did I leave it with the excavator, did I leave it with the tractor, is it in the back of the side-by-side, or where is it? Well, I got it all roughed in. Pond 2.0, pond 2.1. The reason I'm saying this is roughed in is because everything is still very wet. I'm basically just smearing mud, trying to get it generally where I want it and so that it will shed water. The way I have it now, water should run off and not pool and puddle. There's some spots that it's still going to do that a little bit, but really I can't come in here and finish grade this until this dries out pretty well, and that's probably going to take, oh, I don't know, a good week or two. Like I said, we've got rain rolling in today. They're calling for locally heavy rainfall this evening and tomorrow. So what I want to do now is go ahead and take that standpipe and turn it up a little bit, which will keep this pond empty. Actually, before I do that, let's go check on see what the water flow going in and out of this pond is right now. I did end up building this bank up a little bit higher than what I was originally thinking. So there you go. There's an idea of how much water is coming into the pond and going out. And if you look at where I have this coming into the new pond, that'll give you an idea of the water flow. But like I said, for right now, I want to go ahead and basically shut off the water to this pond and start getting the water level in pond number 2 up a little bit higher. So hopefully for you visual learners out there, this will give you a better reference for how this elbow works on here now. So right now you can see there's water going into the pipe, and if I take and turn it up, now there is not water going into the pipe, and there won't be water going into the pipe until the water level comes up. I'd say right now from water level to here is about 6 inches. Now if you look, one thing I was concerned about was originally our ground level was right here, so if I had raised that up as high as it is now, it would have just washed right around the outside of the dam. But I did bring in, oh, I don't know, 10 or 15 scoops of clay and built this up a little bit. Another thing I was concerned about was building this up. I didn't want to bury this tree. So instead of bringing that flat grade over to this tree, I just created a little bit of a dam here. So that way the water won't come around the side of the dam and wash out this way. So I think, I mean, I could get the transit out and double check this, but I think how I have this right now should contain the water for where I just set the water level with that elbow. So now that we just turn that elbow, it should basically be like shutting the spigot off. Let's just go double check and make sure it's working how we think it's going to. There should be no more water coming out of this pipe over here. Perfect, dry as a bone. Now the other thing that I can do with that elbow is, let's say they're calling for a hurricane to come up the East Coast, and they're predicting we're going to get 6, 8, 10 inches of rain or something like that. I can come out here, turn that elbow down, and drain the water in here in a much more controlled fashion until it's all the way down to the bottom of that pipe, and then turn it back up, essentially making room for that 6 or 8 inches of rain that's going to be coming, and use this as a legitimate flood mitigation tool. So even though that is an 8-inch pipe and has the ability to move a tremendous amount of water pretty quickly, if I know and can foresee a big storm coming, I can come out here, lower the water level in a controlled fashion. You know, I might only knock it down an inch or two at a time and let it drain slowly over the course of 24 hours, versus what would happen if all of this land and hillside behind me puts down 6 or 8 inches of rain. It's going to cause a lot of devastation and flooding and erosion. Whereas, again, this pond now, I can drop the water level, turn the standpipe back up, and then basically use this as a holding tank for all that water and then let it out at a more controlled rate in the future. So after all that talking, I don't think I really mentioned why we decided to dig this third pond. I didn't want one, I didn't need one, I wasn't planning on digging it. But as I kind of alluded to in the beginning of this video, I needed to steal a little bit of clay from in here to raise the pond dam higher. And once I had done that, you know, it was starting to look pretty junky back here, and there was really no way to clean it up unless I was going to truck more dirt in, which at that point I should have just left this alone and just trucked the clay in to build this up. But since I had already done that, I didn't have any way to clean this up and make it look nice again. And the only thing I could think of is, well, we already have you know, standing water down here. Might as well just finish it off and make a pond. So that's the whole reason, is that was the only way that I could see to clean this back up and get it looking halfways decent and not just, you know, random holes holding water all throughout here. So one more update for you guys and then we'll wrap this video up, and that is going to be on the original pond. I mentioned in the last video I brought a water level marking indicator out here 4 days ago now, and when I put this out here the water level was at 7.5 inches, and here we are 4 days later with no rain, and we are sitting right at about 7 inches still, which I believe is what we were at about 2 days ago. Now, again, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges with what we were experiencing before. I know in the past we were losing anywhere from 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch a day, but you can't really compare that now or to where we're at now because our water level was so much higher and we had a lot more head pressure. Before, when we were losing a lot of water, the level was up around the standpipe, which is about 3 feet higher than it is now, and that creates a lot more head pressure on the bottom of the pond. So while I feel good that the 1/2 inch of water we've lost over the last 3 or 4 days is evaporation related, it's still too early to say. I'm just merely here to give you guys an update, and I will continue to do so as we go along and see water level changes in the pond. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to about wrap this one up. As you can see, that storm that I was fearing is rolling in behind me. So even though I'm going to sign off right now, if anything interesting happens with this storm, I will put it after this. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. All right, so we didn't get anything too crazy. We got about 1.25 inches of rain, which sounds like a lot, but it came down gently and slowly. And so when it does that, it has time to soak into the ground, which has been very dry so far. Whenever we get those gully washers where we get 2 or 3 inches in an hour, that's when the pond fills up really fast because it doesn't have time to soak into the topsoil, just runs right off and down into the pond. So with 1.25 inches of a gentle soaking rain, the pond level came up to about 9 inches. So we came up 2 inches in the pond up here. Let's go check out the new lower pond. All right, so pond 2.0 has come up another couple of inches as well. I don't have a water measuring stick down here to measure the water level in this pond, but I think what we can use for the time being is our overflow pipe. So if you remember, before the storm came, that aqua pipe was just barely in the water. Here's a before shot of what that looked like, and here's what it looks like now. That's an 8-inch pipe, and I would say it's probably 2/3 of it is now underwater. So I'd say we probably came up 4 inches in this pond down here. But again, you have to remember, this pond not only is going to be catching all of the surface runoff under here, but it also has groundwater going into it as well. And then here is what pond 3.0 looks like. And you know, I don't have this pond draining into this pond right now. It won't do that until it gets up to the top of that elbow, and then it'll start draining into here. So the only water that's run into here since that storm was just anything that fell from the sky. There's really no runoff that comes into this pond. Everything is shaped away from it. So that'll just give you an idea. As of right now, the only thing feeding this pond is rainfall. Now, in going back and looking at the comments from some of our last couple videos with the pond, I want to just kind of gauge everybody's interest level here, because a lot of comments about the pond dye. People hate the pond dye. And I know that some people like it. I personally like it. I think it looks a heck of a lot better than the muddy brown water. But a lot of people have been commenting and saying that it looks toxic, it looks too chemical, it just doesn't look good, it looks too fake and artificial. I like it, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that probably like it too, but the ones who don't like it are obviously much more vocal and loud about how much they dislike it. So I want to take a poll right now and ask you guys, if you had a pond like this, would you put pond dye in it, or would you just leave it alone and let it be a nasty, muddy, chocolate milk looking pond? One last comment that I want to address is the people who have said you should have just dug the pond down here to begin with. And I agree. If I knew what I know now, I would not have probably fooled around with that pond up there. But now that I know what I know, people are saying, why don't you just scrap that pond up there, bulldoze that one, and just have this be your pond? And for those people, I'm going to show you why right now. This is why. Because the view from the house up here, if and when we can ever get this pond full, will be absolutely incredible. We have this view looking out over the valley, over top of the building. We've got farmhouses off in the distance, farmland, fields. And while the pond down there would look nice, if we can get this one full, I mean, our view is going to be incredible. So that's why I refuse to give up on that pond. Now, if after doing everything that we're doing and what I'm going to have coming in the next video doesn't work, I'm probably going to give this another year. And if we are still unable to, by next summer, have this pond down here be full, that may be something we do, is bring in a bulldozer and just bulldoze this whole thing and have that be the pond down there. But I really, really want to try to make this pond work. Like I said, if I knew what I know now, I probably would have just started with the pond down there to begin with, but I didn't know when we started this. I didn't know that this area here was not going to hold water, and that area down there was going to fill up in a week. So we've been fighting with this one for going on 3 years now, and we just dug that one less than a month ago, and it's full and done and beautiful. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Pond eye. And that's the answer to why I'm not giving up on this big upper pond up here.